Heterosexual men meet being a woman under patriarchy via the online job market, labor market economics, and relational dynamics. Hi, my name is Sarah Trimble. I'm the founder and CEO of the Job Applicant Perspective, the first anonymous crowdsourced user reviews for job ads across the U.S. Think Yelp in a world of professionally mandated fine dining, no health department, and no FDA. So I do video essays of my blog posts to just make it more visible to a wider range of people. And this is an upcoming one. I have moved in different directions talking about underlying economic theory in the online job market in older blog posts, the actual experience, like talking about how the job market is like a supermarket that hides the food. That's where the profit comes from. Talks about math using game theory, old school economics using two-stakeholder Jevons paradox, and Akerlof's market for lemons. And lately, I am moving into the sociological side of what the online job market is, because I do see a lot of overlap between the dating market and the job market, although my entrepreneurial work is in the job market. But dudes, this one is kind of for you and kind of for all of us, really. It's like, I notice patterns, okay? Our structural system theory is my thing, and I cannot not ignore the validity of the pattern that I see, but I welcome feedback on this as well, because just because I have a pattern that I observed doesn't mean I've seeded it as well as I could within the context. But this is meant to kind of engage people and try to drive agency in this regard too, and also drive empathy. You'll see the next two blog posts kind of go together. The last three, really. So, ever been constantly solicited by recruiters? You open in LinkedIn. Your inbox floods with recruiter messages. You decline, they keep coming. You unsubscribe, they just following up you anyway. You roll your eyes. It's annoying but harmless, right? Men, picture this. You get annoyed. You complain about it to your network, and people gently remind you, be polite if you want to stay employed. Whether or not you realize it, in that moment, you stepped into a dynamic women have lived for generations. It's not flattery, it's entitlement. Your no doesn't matter because someone else's pipeline needs outrank your boundaries. You're a means to someone else's metric. They can love bomb and discard you, and people will shrug. That's just how they are. Choose better. Don't get so upset. That's not flirtation, it's extraction. A system that calls exploitation opportunity. The argument, hiring markets and dating markets may look different on the surface, but they're caught in the same loop of incentives, silence, and dissatisfaction. Setting the context. Before I map more of these parallels, I want to be clear about my lens. My expertise lies in structural systems theory. I study the architecture of interaction the way others study the architecture of buildings. I trace how incentives, language, and design shape human behavior across networks. This means I see patterns at the level of system logic, not personal preference. A world atlas doesn't tell you the best route to the corner store, but it still reveals the shape of the world. I haven't studied the dating markets as deeply as I have hiring, but the patterns are too aligned to ignore. What follows is not a claim to authority, it's an invitation to see the shared architecture beneath. Who this is for? Job seekers who feel disrespected, ghosted, or gaslit into the hiring process. Recruiters blame for mismatches they can't fix. Employers who wonder why retention feels fragile. Journalists, economists, policymakers searching for language to explain why job boards and dating apps feel like treadmill machines. Constant effort, little progress. And for those curious about how the job applicant perspective fits at the practical intervention that mirrors this theory. Parallels, invisible systems. From a systems perspective, the parallels between patriarchy and online hiring are stark. Talent shortage and male loneliness. Number one, both narratives erase half the participants. In labor, the talent shortage is framed as employer pain rather than job seeker harm. Tens of millions of the U.S. labor force remain unemployed for long periods without explanation, like actively threatening their access to food, clothing, shelter, and health care. Their struggle is reframed as individual failure, while profit loss is treated as a systemic crisis. Really? In dating, male loneliness is cast as a social emergency, while women's harassment, systemic assault, and even deaths are relegated to the realm of women's private issues. Choose better. both grant one side's pain structural weight and reduce the other side's to personal weakness, despite the fact that the level of pain is demonstrably reversed in terms of the seriousness. Number 2, fawning equals virtue. Fawning is a trauma response, smiling when you don't want to, carrying politeness to keep safety. In hiring, it's renamed professionalism. This definition only exists until you're hired, and then it's unprofessional. In dating, it's renamed natural feminism. Both make one side responsible for the emotional comfort of both as etiquette. For the record, what is considered appropriate for a recruiter to do? You shouldn't talk about your hiring process. It makes you unprofessional. Kind of sounds like criminal extortion in other fields. Can you imagine a doctor saying something? It'd be a real shame if you kept complaining about this hospital if you ever wanted to get healthcare ever again. A lawyer doing the same. Come on now. It's exactly what Harvey Weinstein's people would have said to the young blonde actresses. Of course, it's not working as an industry. Next one, superiority equals default. Authority. Employers' needs are treated as real. Unemployed job seekers are stakeholders in name only. Talent vendors take on employer status as being a stakeholder over the actual stakeholders they are meant to serve. Though they are clearly unprotected consumers in one of those most important marketplaces in their lives, job seeker needs are dismissed as secondary to the comfort of both employers and talent acquisition solution vendors. For job seekers to express needs is to risk unemployability, punished by the very talent acquisition vendors whose existence depends on those same needs. Are job seekers the diners at the restaurant that are built for their existence, or the food on the plate? Which role would actually make the market work? Men are framed as real adults, women as untrustworthy unless they can prove otherwise. Men's history is just history, whereas women's history is an elective. And this pattern continues through healthcare and all aspects of social consideration. Both narratives normalize entitlement to the other's emotional labor without reciprocal obligation. I did another blog post, like 2 blog posts ago, called LinkedIn is Patriarchy in a Bottle, but we're not really talking about gender here. We're talking about hierarchy and kingdom, because there's very much gender is not the only version of this kind of engagement. It's just the one that's most common throughout the world. Always in doubt. Any complaint from the less powerful side is doubted. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe it was understood. Women's harassment claims are men's default innocence. Job seekers' mistreatment, employers, or the talent industry's default innocence. Distrust sustains the narrative and disconnects policymakers and academics from engaging in straightforward economic reality. Emotional invalidation of lived experience as economic value capture. Extra labor can be done by simply describing it as not work. And when authority falls to men or employers to decide what work even is, it creates economic value capture without being required societally to admit that's what is happening. The greatest way to is silly. Side note, monarchs and oligarchs of years past have used all the same playbook, ascribing the labor of peasants as natural peasant nature, sturdy stock. It's a classic play, an entirely predictable way, as a way to have access to outcomes, farmed fields, cared for children, interview projects, without honoring the work involved. Kingdom structures, social, economic, or physical, are entirely predictable in their mechanisms in many ways. It doesn't matter if we're talking about race, gender, religion, etc. As long as the group with authority is allowed to describe what work even is, they get to extract value from the group that we've decided not to give authority to, while not having to honor the value that they're extracting. Emotional comfort spaces, like ice cream for your nervous system and brain 24/7. Whether a room full of job seekers or a room full of women, as soon as an employer or a man enters the room, the conversation shifts. Employers on LinkedIn and men under patriarchy end up getting a Truman Show experience of the world others are living in. The bubble of superiority erases the reality of everyone else while failing to acknowledge that's what it's doing. Liberal communities call this a safe space, but when employers or men are doing it, they are entitled to encode it as professional reality, as opposed to their version of the same. When we talk about Black student unions and people say, oh, that's a safe space, That's what LinkedIn is too. That's what patriarchy is too. It's just that happens in the whole world for them. The power dynamic slip in dating. The dating market environment creates a temporary but devastating inversion of the market dynamic. Because violence against women is not structurally protected, women's goal is to choose carefully because, well, what did you say is the norm when harm befalls them. Because identity under patriarchy for men and their masculinity is related to marriage, they come at dating like romantic employment. On dating apps, men are the job seekers ghosted by algorithmic hall of mirrors. Female profiles scraped and copied, replicate employment listings scraped and copied. Women don't see it and think men are overreacting. In both cases, red-pilling one side and subordinating the other is control and planned obsolescence for human connection. I understand the dynamics are a little bit flipped there too, but the overall system structure is very, very similar. Empathy, bridging emotional understanding. Overall, there are some general structural lessons at play here beyond interesting overlapping patterns. Power is not really aggression. It's not lightning bolts coming out of your hands like some Marvel movie. It is the comfort of not needing to notice someone else's distress while still feeling fine about the human system and the relationship. Intent does not equal impact. In reality, the lack of requirement to consider the impact is fully sufficient to create profound and compounding societal harm. No economist or investor set out to either design a labor market that would break online or set it on fire. That's antithetical to their literal goals of making money and stable work. Ease creates complacency, and the stories we don't tell are the people we don't protect or celebrate. Entitlement is not a personal flaw. It's conditioned behavior that needs to be worked through. Rejection, fawning, and gaslighting are not personal flaws. They're conditioned survival strategies. Hispanic spaces, Black spaces, women's spaces, people with disability, these spaces weren't exclusion. They were survival, dignity, and equal weight for their truth. They were people trying to create the experience that you are having in life and employers are having on LinkedIn. Emotional safety. Organized, shared struggle, and collective response. Disadvantaged groups have always organized because no one in power was coming to save them. No authority will be rescuing the U.S. labor force quickly. The conditioned response to not care about the despair or financial desperation of those in the labor market, sorry, I said that twice, means your instinct that someone will solve it is false. There is no version of reality that the tens of millions overtly risking access to employment by openly describing harm across LinkedIn and a lack of social response means that your great pleas tomorrow will help. That makes this a shared struggle. U.S. job seekers need each other. Solidarity is not about burning things down. It's about building something that finally works for the people that work it and bring it profit. Check the research. If you want the receipts, you see the open access papers, working papers across academic stuff. I have SSRN, formal papers, OSF, SANITO. These are kind of a mix between white paper and academic paper. You can see a lot there. You don't have to be an economist. For the record, I'm not a trained economist or sociologist, structural systems theorist, so I do my best to bring it into that. But if you're not one of those either, it's fine. We're building a ship as we sail it here because there's nobody going to help us get off this island. We need to help ourselves and each other. The job applicant perspective, these ideas aren't just theory. The job applicant perspective is the first anonymous Google reviews for job ads and recruiters. Job seekers flag scams, ghost postings, and disrespectful processes. Recruiters see actionable feedback to improve matches. Employers escape noise by building trustworthy accounts. We don't tell you what it's like to work somewhere. We tell you whether a job post is worth your time. You could stop by, leave a review, share with a friend. Job hunting help flip the labor market from platform trust to people trust. In conclusion, the parallels between dating and job markets aren't accident. They're design. Both rely on superiority for one side, fawning from the other, and constant churn to feed the platform. That's why empathy isn't optional. It's survival. Empathy helps you see the system as a whole. When you realize that the players are actually probably halfway decent people stuck in a bad system.
GPS signal lost.
And organizing isn't secondary. It's the only path to agency. For decades, the story has been that workers or women don't measure up. The truth is different. The system profits from keeping you performing, doubting, and fawning. The choice now is whether to keep playing that role or to join in building systems where people can finally see and trust each other. Thank you. I hope you'll stop by. I don't know, leave a comment in the links and all the things. And genuinely, and I'm not saying that people don't need to be humans to each other and that insults or gropers or any of that is okay. I am saying realize if you're a woman in the world who has been broken by this job market. U.S. men have been trained to look at identity as both employment and marriage. And they're getting broken twice. That sucks too. It's not an excuse for violence. Accountability two things can be true at the same time. It's an excuse for reality and empathy. And U.S. men understand that I see that too. And it doesn't mean that I don't hold people accountable, but it does mean that both things are true. See you. Be safe. Be sane out there. The gaslighting is strong. But we're stronger. I don't know. Whenever you think that you can't survive, I kind of feel like legit, we are alive right now. We come from a legacy of survival that is never to be questioned. You can do this. And all of your ancestors have done hard things too. And so can you. Stop by. And also, give yourself kindness. It's really tough out there. It's crazy. So